you, unfortunately.
Hello, do you
This is better now. There's a lot of noise, and the sound quality is quite low, and we got a lot of feedback also. No, that no, we can't hear you now. Perhaps if you remove your headset, it would be better. Try and
I expect this would be worse, but is it okay?
yeah, it's way better now.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll do this then. Sorry.
Thank you very much. So go ahead. You have your 10 minutes to talk about
Okay.
to us about yscript.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So I'm Will. I'm a computable contracts developer at Codex at Stanford. I've been working on some kind of off the side of my desk on some visual programming focused tooling for yscript, which is, as its creator says, a computer language for representing and manipulating propositions. So this is a language for legal expert systems based on propositional logic. There's a sample on the right there. You've got code organized into rules, which contain Boolean expressions. It's part of like a broader set of expert system tools, which is called DataLex. Pretty much constitutes the entire existing tooling around yscript. It looks like this. Is my screen dimmed?
No, it's fine for us. We can see it.
Okay, it looks dim for me, but that's good. So it looks like this. It has this kind of chat style interface, similar kind of vibe to like docassemble, lots of other stuff in the space. It also has a couple of other interesting features that I don't see in many of those cousins, and that kind of started me on this path. So it asks you questions. It's got a pretty simple algorithm for deciding what question to ask. It's basically just the order facts are referenced in the program. You give a new answer, you get some new conclusions. You can ask for an explanation of any conclusion, and it'll give you, that's a pretty simple one, but it'll give you a trace if it's longer. You can do this hypothetical reasoning, which I think is really nice. You can just see what the conclusions would be if you said something. And you've got this, there's another thing you can do, which I don't know why the button isn't showing up now, but you can ask why you're being asked a certain question, like what it's going to help determine. I think this is really cool. I think a lot of us are probably familiar with this kind of interface. This is, I think, one of my favorites in this style, mainly because of those like what if, why, how kind of features. It shows lots of context. There's also a lot of like natural language stuff it does that's cool. DataLex, I don't have time to talk about all of it, but it's worth giving their website a once over. I think they have a lot of good ideas. But the why and what if are kind of how I got started, because I like them a lot, and I think I want more of what they do. This idea of like looking back or looking ahead in the evaluation of a program like this is really nice, and I'd like to be able to go more than one step. Also, these explanations, you see things like what DataLex does in a lot of tools, which is you ask for an explanation of something. yscript doesn't call it that, but a lot of people do, and you get a derivation tree basically, or an evaluation trace. And I think that's nice, and it's useful for some things. And it's not exactly what I think of as an explanation, and I kind of wanted to explore a little bit what I do think of as an explanation. To me, I think explanation is about building understanding, and particularly the thing I'm interested in is explaining a set of rules, not just a particular application of those rules, which is a different set of things to be explained. Right? You want to know how the rules interact, which rules are important, which ones you think about first, whether some rules are mutually exclusive or only relevant in the context of some other rules. The reason I sort of have been putting work in on this is at Codex we're working on a lot of insurance stuff, and the idea of explaining an insurance policy, it's quite hard to just explain particular claims over and over and come to an understanding of the policy. I could see like 20 different claims and their determinations, and I might sort of start to build a bit of understanding, but I really want that like big picture view of a policy, and I don't think you get it from the kind of chat style interface. It's really, this like looking one step ahead or one step backward is nice, but really what I want is to understand all of the avenues of possibility and track how and why those avenues are opening and closing as I reveal new facts. And also this issue of asking the right questions. I mentioned DataLex has quite a simple algorithm for it. I think that's fair enough. I think it's actually a really hard problem. And there's a lot of people trying to do work on relevance. I think it's maybe too hard, at least for me to solve. And I'd rather avoid the problem and just like not ask questions as much as possible. And I'll show you what I mean here. This is what I've been working on. It's a VS Code extension, kind of your classic boxes and wires type of thing. First important point about it is it's all text first. The graph here is derived entirely from the yscript source code. It's not something you like build separately, aside from a bit of positioning metadata, but that's okay. I like text a lot, more than I really have time to get into here, but Graydon Hoare is a great blog post, always bet on text, if anyone's read it. I just really wanted to avoid the graph having its own kind of opaque format. The graph just is the code, but a different view. So we can see, like, let's say this one, whatever. As we edit the code, the graph changes. And you can link back. This is all tree setter. I wrote a tree setter parser for yscript, which generates a concrete syntax tree. So we can always connect something in the graph back to its source text, which is really useful in a kind of a larger program. Tree setter is also quite error tolerant, so it doesn't matter if it isn't valid. Well, it's hard to write something that isn't valid. There you go. yscript has quite a loose grammar, which is nice. But it's good that it's tolerant, because a lot of the time when you're in the middle of typing things, they don't parse, and we want to still be able to do something with a partially valid program. Rule boxes are just very simple HTML. Particularly, you'll notice they don't have any editing features. I used to have that. I took it out. I think it's better to just link back to the editor and do whatever you want there. The editor is always going to be more fit for purpose. There's also, this is kind of the main thing I wanted to do, which is just set the value of kind of arbitrary facts and see what the implications are. You can say pick a goal rule, which is how you tell yscript this is the rule I'm going to start with, and like determine a value for the fact it depends on, and it'll kind of take you through in the same way as yscript does, pointing to facts in a certain order. I should animate that hand, but whatever. And it's nice. I do really like that. I think it's nice to have a little like tour of the rules, but it's also really nice to not have to follow it. You can, if I just want to like cut this off completely, it's like, I know it's not this. I don't want to answer all those questions. Just don't even ask me about it. You can do that. It'll make all the inferences for you. It's it's got kind of a nice like spreadsheety feel to me a little bit. You can kind of test these hypotheticals for no real reason and just see what happens. It's very like low ceremony. And I think it's quite helpful for sort of building an understanding, not just of how a single result was achieved, but like how the rules all together work.
So, William, I would suggest to move to the conclusion since we're kind of up with the 10 minutes.
Sorry, am I out of time?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. I'm done anyway. Yeah, I was just going to noodle a bit, but if we're out of time.
So, do you have some final conclusion words before we move to questions, or?
Yeah, I guess my main kind of idea and the thing I've been thinking about while doing this is I think tooling is really important, and I think there are a lot of like really cool languages that don't go anywhere because they never get the tooling they deserve. And I wanted to like focus on that question. I think yscript is actually a really cool language and really useful for this niche. And I like to see it have good tooling.
Okay, well, we can thank William for the presentation. Do we have any questions in the chat or in the room? Yes, I'm giving you the mic.
Yeah, at some point you mentioned that you wanted to use your language and explore a bit more like the future scenario that you could come up with, etc. But I'm wondering, like, this is the very classical problem in any formal analysis tool, like presentation of the results to the users. If you have many time steps and a very complicated mathematical object at the end, you will have probably a hard time finding a good representation for that. And I was wondering whether you had already some ideas or some clues about this.
Yeah, I think my idea is to just try not to have complicated mathematical objects. It's why I like propositional logic for this. It's why I like yscript. And I think it's also, at least here, I'm actually using Z3 on the back end. So I could, in theory, have like some quite complicated mathematics going on under the covers, especially if I had a more sophisticated logic. You know, in theory, I could do this with predicate logic. And I do have some like similar tooling underway with that. But I just don't show it, right? I don't explain things in those terms. Like I think it's less important that people understand the mathematics as they than that they kind of develop an intuition for the dynamics of the system. So I think my solution to the problem is to just not address it. It is really hard, and that's why I don't want to do it.